All right, everybody, we are in the home stretch. We're finally to the point where we are almost ready to put paint on the walls. At this stage and at this step, one of the really important things to do to make sure you have a really nice, clean paint job is to really pay a lot of attention to where your trim and baseboard hit your wall and where you're transitioning from one paint color to the other. If you don't handle this correctly, you're just not really going to be happy with your results. So I have a couple of little tricks that I want to share with you guys, and I think it'll really be helpful if you decide to tackle a paint project on your own. So after you're taped, what you want to do is to seal that edge. There's a couple of ways to do it. The easiest way is to just use the trim paint and go back one more time with a really light coat and paint along that edge. And you can see that I've held the tape away from the wall consistently across the full length of the wall, and what I'll do now is just go back in and paint to seal up that edge. So just really lightly, using your existing trim color, and this works with painted trim, not necessarily stained would work, although you could use a clear coat for stained, but just go back through and lightly touch this edge. And again, what that does is that if that edge of the tape's not sealed and something gets underneath it, right now it's only going to be trim color and you won't notice it. Then when you go back over it with the wall color, you're going to be able to pull the tape and have a nice crisp line. One of the final steps we need to take before we're ready to put the wall paint on is to prep any final areas where we've made any patches or repairs. I've already spackled this, I put joint compound on it, I've put a prime coat on it, but what I need to do now is bring it up to where it at least has one coat of color on it. So that way I can go over the entire wall one final time, and this area won't what's called flash. So if you don't go through those steps, what's going to happen is you're going to see this repair underneath the paint coat. It's going to have, as you look across it, you'll see the light reflecting differently off of it. It's called flashing. So do the repair, prime it, go over it one time with wall color before you paint your final coat on your entire wall, and you'll have great results with that. One more tip for you. While you're going through all of this process, you're going to have multiple tools wet with different colors and different paints. So what you want to do is make sure you keep those tools damp with the paint. So plastic right now can be your best friend in this situation. So here's an example of what you should do with the brush whenever you have done some initial painting and then you're setting this aside. You don't want this to start to dry. So wrap it up in plastic. This is just painter's plastic here. That's helped to keep the brush dry. I've done that with my roller covers, my straining pail, as well as the actual roller pan itself. So this is an important step to keep, again, from getting the little gritty things, dried up paint particles, or your actual tools themselves drying out. We're down to some of the final steps, and I want to go over a few actual real techniques of actually putting the paint on the wall. One of the big parts of it is to get your rollers and your brushes loaded correctly with the right amount of paint. Not too much, not too little. So one way to do it, or the way that I recommend you don't just run your roller down into there and you get the whole thing covered and then it becomes a sloppy mess. You need to be very particular about the amount of paint that you put on the roller cover. So come on in a little bit closer, and what you want to do is just roll it in to where the roller cover touches the paint, draw some up onto the platform, and then load it there. Again, just pull a little bit of paint up onto the tray and then load your roller there instead of rolling it down into the puddle of paint. What's going to happen is it's going to get overloaded with paint, it's going to flop around, and it'll leave a lot of big roller marks because the roller itself is too saturated. Again, same thing with the large one. Just touch the top of the paint, pull it up, and then load your roller cover that way. Now, technique for cutting in against the ceiling. This is one of the important things to really take your time, and a couple of key things for technique will help you, and it'll go a long way to getting a nice, clean, straight line. So you've got a brush, nice brush that's large enough. This is a 3-inch brush, something along these lines. What you want to do, you want to fan the brush out, get it loaded up, fan it out, and you want to draw the brush towards you. Stay ahead of it, fan it. I don't know that you can see from way down there. If you can't, try to get a close up here. Fan the brush and only allow that one tip part of the brush up there to actually come close to the ceiling. And again, I'm staying in front of the brush. I don't let it get behind me because then I can't see where I'm leading. So that's a really good tip there. Okay, so we're now using the 9-inch roller to cover the most of the wall. I've already got us cut in on the perimeter and we're all edged in. Now all I need to do is work between the areas I've already edged in. My roller's loaded, so a couple of ideas and techniques here. Always be mindful of the frame of the roller and orient that the direction that you're moving as you're painting. So I wouldn't want the frame here as I'm coming into this wall. I could maybe scratch the casing, I could scratch if it was a wall. So I always want to have it moving in the direction that you're going. And whenever you first apply it, there's a lot of paint on there. So what you want to do is kind of find the area away from the areas you're working to. So here's my spot. I got to work this way and work down. So I don't want to start in the corner. I'll start away from it and then work my way over there. Because what I don't want to do is apply too much paint over against the edge and then try to work that paint back away from the edge. If I start here and work towards this way, then I'll have the right amount of paint working towards my edge. And working in the infamous W pattern, where you get good coverage, but you don't want to wait too long until the roller cover has removed all of the paint, because then you're removing paint off the wall actually, and then you're just creating a very thin edge of paint. So you want to be mindful of that. And always be mindful and watchful for roller marks. So I've got one right here that you want to make sure, if you see that, you just roll back over top of it to thin it down and to cause it to lay down. You don't want those stripes because you're leaving too thick of an edge of paint. So always watch for that. We are going to have the big tape peel reveal to see if our technique worked. Paint peel there. So it works nearly perfect. Hey everybody, we're done. So what we did is we painted the trim. I wound up painting the interior door as well. This was an oak stained door, and now it's painted. And I also painted the golden oak cabinets that are in here to a fun, new, fresh, eclectic color. So we went with an eclectic palette in here. It's pink and it's blue. These are some colors that came from the PPG color of the year. And so we had some fun with it. A nice little space, but it really brought a lot of life and a lot of fun to this little space. A lot of the process I used on the trim, I also used on the cabinets just to spare time. But the product that I use on the cabinets is Emerald Urethane Trim Enamel. This is a newer product that Sherwin-Williams has released. And it's really great for this type of application as well. So there's a lot of products out there, a lot of good things to that you can use from a different manufacturers. But the real key is to take your time and go through the process and get good paint. I'm really happy and really proud with the way that this turned out. I think it's a nice transformation. I'm excited about it, and I hope you guys have learned a lot. Thanks a lot. We'll see you.